Svana took up the scroll and wound the wooden spools to read. Nature, resource base. Particular, subjective perspective. Subjective perspective, whether innate or developed, is the base state of the manifested entity. It is a measure of the interest of the entity in itself, the measure of the entity's intent toward the manifestation of its own potential. In the case of innate subjective perspective, the intent is the built-in result of the manifestation and its requirements. The manifested entity, through the mechanism of its basic characteristics, views its environment and responds according to innate selected instinct to value what it knows to value and protect itself against what it knows puts it at risk. The innate subjective perspective thereby reflects the survival instinct of the organism. It is its own fundamental understanding of what is required for its survival in the course of serving its own innate intent to manifest its potential within its environment. Where an organism evolves to develop reflective awareness, including the ability to consider itself within the context of environment, the capacity of subjective perspective increases in potency. This increased capacity can be employed towards various objectives, but to be employed towards any objective beyond that gleaned by the innate subjective perspective, such as empowered base-level development of security through avoidance or destruction of potential threats, requires the development of the ability for rational consideration. If the potency achieved through reflective awareness is employed towards a subjective perspective with limited regard for context, then the organism risks losing objective connection with its environment, thereby putting its gained perception at risk. If the potency is employed towards a heightened regard for context, then the organism may strengthen itself through its recognition of interconnection within its environment, and then through increased support of its environment, bring about gains to itself. If the potency is employed toward the diminishment of the influential force of the subjective aspect, through intent to directly embody the objective, then the organism may accelerate its own evolution by framing its reflective intent increasingly upon manifestation of greater potential. The pursuit of objective beyond the subjective aspect requires a deeper consideration of environment than a simple recognition of immediate mechanistic need. It requires a consideration of the balance of subjective needs as set against the objective need of the environment to manifest overall potential. In this way, the objective intent acts as a bolster within the overall environment against the empowered pursuit of pure subjective intent. The organism must recognize the intentional forces at play within an environment and discern their nature as set against the overall objective intent. This mechanism applies to innate intent, in that any organism must recognize the base characteristics of its environment in order to continue to pursue objective intent, but it applies with a greater power of relevance to the intent of organisms that have acquired reflective awareness, but have not yet acquired an ability for rational consideration that is sufficient to govern their own subjective intent. The mechanism has particular pertinence in the context of reflective intent because of the capacity for organisms capable of reflective intent to manipulate environments regardless of whether those manipulations are aligned with the seed environment's objective interest in the manifestation of the full extent of its overall potential.